Keeping up with winter panfish migrations can be challenging. This week on Fishette, Jon breaks down their travel patterns to help you stay on the bite.
There's one right there. Got him. That is a good start. Let's see what we got here. We're out doing some pan fishing today. It's gonna be ooh, big gill. Look at that. This is gonna be a cool day. Because here's the thing. I'm not necessarily, that's a giant gill. That's a great gill to start with. But I'm not necessarily targeting bluegills today, crappies, or anything in specific. What I'm thinking here is just early season panfish. And we're on pretty early ice. There's not much snow here yet. And there's not a ton of ice yet. We're at about that 9-inch mark on the ice. Look at that. What a great way to start a day. That's a big gill. That's a really cool fish. I'm just going to let that guy go because he's just a giant. But that's an awesome fish. Let's get this guy out of here. Get out of here, buddy. There he goes. Yep. That's cool. That's a good way to start a day. But here's what we're doing today. We're fishing for panfish. And what we're going to talk about today is just locations. And when I say panfish today, we're talking bluegills, crappies. You know, I don't think we're going to get a lot of perch doing what we're doing, but we might even mix in a few perch. So here's the thing. We're just going to talk about locations today and how we progress throughout the year to catch gills like that one, crappies, and whatever it is that we can get to bite on any given day. I got another fish down there, so I really should be paying a little bit more attention here and giving him a chance to bite. But it's going to be a great day. That's a great start right there. Man, that's awesome. Man, if we put a pile of those in the bucket today, what a day that'll be. Here comes one. Here he comes. See if we can get him. Came up off the bottom. I wonder if this is another gill. What I'm doing is I'm fishing for both species today. One setup primarily thinking bluegills, and one setup primarily thinking crappies. And you'll get a little bit of crossover, but not enough to make it so that you don't want to have both of these down. If you have both of these setups down, your odds are far higher of getting a mixed bag. There he is. Just hanging on it. Got him. Look at that. That fish was just, he came up and just kind of globbed onto it. It's funny how that'll work sometimes. Ooh, that's a good crop. Tangled up in my transducer. Let's get that out of there. Come here. Come here, buddy. Look at that. What an awesome crappie. I'll tell you what, that fish, he just came up and kind of globbed onto it. I watched him coming. But it was a really slow, lethargic deal. And here he showed up. And that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of these locations and what I'm talking about when it comes to following these fish throughout the year. So it starts with this. Where we're sitting right now, I'm adjacent to some weeds. And one of the things I'll tell you is I think most of the time people get really, really excited about feeling like they got to go to the deepest hole on the lake right away. And that's not really the case. Going out to that deepest hole on the lake, a lot of times it's going to be void of fish as long as there's still some weeds around. So back behind me here, there's a little sunken island and there's weeds on it. So here's what I'm doing right now. There's a huge hole over there. That hole over there is eventually going to get a lot of the fish when the weeds die off. But right now, there's still enough weeds around that those fish are comfortable being in the area of those weeds. As soon as those weeds are gone, though, these fish are going to start transitioning toward that deeper stuff. So one of the things I do is when I'm on early ice or this mid-range ice, when we're just getting going, you know, that 8, 9, 10 inches, that's when I want to fish adjacent to weed beds, whether it's shoreline weeds, just on the drop-off, just on the outside, or like what I've got here, a sunken island right back here behind me, because here's what's going on. Those fish are still relating to all these weeds because they're still here. So ultimately, if you stay in those areas at the beginning of the season, and right now I'm fishing 17.5 feet of water, right outside of that weed line. The weed line on this lake's at about 14 feet. So that's what's got these fish stacked up around here. They're going to go into those weeds to eat. Oh, he's right on it. Got to be on this one. There he is. He's on this one. Yep, got him. I knew he was on one of the two, so I just kept coming up. And son of a gun, there he was. This feels like a gill the way he's fighting. Yep, look at that. Good gill. Look at that one. Awesome bluegill. Here's the thing. Because of where we're set up in a situation where we're close enough to the weeds that these gills and crappies are all mixed together. A lot of times, if you want gills, you want to be closer to the weeds, like I was saying earlier. Or if you want crappies, you want to be a little further into that deeper water. But this is the one time of the year where they're all together. And they're very, very close in proximity to each other. That's a great gill right there. So let me tell you, here's what is going to happen next. We're not far away from the snowfalls that are going to change everything. And what I mean by changing everything is all of a sudden what's going to happen is those weeds in there, they're going to die. Those weeds along the shorelines are going to die, and these fish will start moving. And they're going to find some intermediate depths, 21, 22, 23 feet, the edges of holes, but they're going to be on the upper side of the edge because there's still plenty of oxygen. So when you're looking at that January time frame, the first spot that I start looking, if the weeds have all died and we've had that snow, is I begin looking on the edges of the holes, but on the top edge. Because they're not going to go into that deep hole and go deep, deep until the oxygen is being depleted everywhere else. They'll just move gradually. So what I'm going to do is look along those top edges. And if you do that, here's what you're going to find. You're for sure going to find your crappies there. And a lot of times, if those weeds are dying, those bluegills are going to follow. Now, those bluegills, most of the time, won't go out into the deep hole, but they'll get to that edge. So that gives you an idea. So, we start that year up against these weeds in these types of areas, 17.5 feet, weed lines in 12 to 14 feet of water. We start there, then we move to the top edges of the holes. And if you do that, here's what you're going to find. You're going to be able to keep up with these fish. A lot of times you keep going back to the same spots over and over and over. And what eventually happens is you find out they're just not there anymore. And it's just because they've made that first move. And that usually happens sometime, like I was saying, in that January time frame when we start getting that first good snowfalls that are covering everything up and making those weeds die off. Those cold, cold nights, everything changes, and it changes down in the water as well when it kills off those weeds, and it makes all those fish change their behavior and where they're living. Ooh, something's going to happen here. Come on. A couple fish up here looking at it. There it is, got him. There was no way that we weren't going to get a fish out of that. Look at that. Great crop. Ooh, almost ended up in the other hole. That's an awesome fish. Perfect. We were high there to get this fish. Came a long ways up. And this guy, he just kept right on coming and coming and coming. Look at that. That's an awesome fish. Chuck him in here and let's get rebaited and get back down there. But while I'm rebaiting and dropping back down, let's talk about when we get to that late winter into that, February into March time frame and where these fish are going to go. That's when these crappies, they're going to find the deepest part of the lake. They're going to find those holes that they're famous for getting into, and they're going to be out there suspending. And what they're doing out there is they're eating, but they're also finding an area where they can go where there's a lot of oxygen. And that's when those gills, they'll kind of take up residence around the edges of the hole. They're still near that deep water, but they don't normally go as deep as what you're going to see these crappies go. So ultimately, you find yourself in a situation, boy, there's another one coming right now. We're going to get another one this quick. But that's where they'll go. There he is. Ooh, he got off. Shoot. There's a good pile of fish under us right now. Let's hope I still got bait. If I still got bait, he'll bite it again. But that's what will happen. Those fish will progress. So we'll start where we're at right now. We'll fish those areas near weeds. Then we'll get to the edges of the holes, and then we'll progress into the holes for the crappies. But all through the process, for the most part, you'll keep the crappies and bluegills together and catch them as you move through. There he is right there. Look at that. Look at that. Got him. The fish, there's a bunch of fish coming through here right now. I mean, we're at that point where they're on the move and they're eating now. And they're just piling through here. This feels like a pretty good one. What we got there? Oh, good gill. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, he was tangled up. He got tangled up in my other line. Couldn't figure out. He all of a sudden started feeling way heavy. Look at that. What a great gill. Man, what a fun day this has been. Crappies, bluegills, one after another. Just fun fishing. Follow these progressions. Get out on the ice and follow these progressions from first ice, that mid ice, all the way through the end of ice, and you'll keep up with fish like that and all the crappies in the pail. Man, it's been a great day.